but that's the power in putting purpose behind tragedy and getting over your bullshit and stepping in and just taking the courage and faith to know that God's got your back to be able to do what you train to do. Because in this life, you're going to get called to the carpet at some point. And I did my training. I'd been working with some babies and stuff, but it wasn't until I got put back in the exact same scenario that it really come full circle to me. And that was 4 years after I'd started adjusting babies. And yeah, it gives me goosebumps still thinking about it to this day.
You're listening to The Unforgettable Business, a show where entrepreneurs and chiropractic practice owners go to learn and practice what it takes to create strong and lasting connections with prospects and customers. So kick back or throw them buds in and do what you do. I'm Rich, your host with strategies to make your business memorable and able to generate the impact you've been dreaming of. Hey, my unforgettable family. I'm out here deep in the mountains with my family on a little weekend getaway, but want to take a minute because I can't wait to share today's episode with you. Yesterday, I had the privilege of sharing an enlightening conversation with Dr. Dustin Judd, owner at Pro Health Chiropractic Center in Corsicana, Texas, an amazing chiropractor and business owner with a powerful perspective on health, wellness, and business. His story and journey is touching and motivating at the same time. This interview is a welcome break from the format in the last 3 episodes, and I'm so grateful that he was able to take some time out of his busy practice to join us here. So whether you're an entrepreneur or a chiropractic practice owner, prepare for transformative insights that could change your business, find inspiration, or move you to action. So let's dive in. But first, real quick, before diving into the episode, if you're a chiropractic practice owner and you've been struggling to attract new patients, committed to participating in their own journey of healing, and want help avoiding common pitfalls while conveying messages that nurture long-term relationships so you can book associates solid and maybe spend some more time with the family, I'd love to send you a free copy of a book I wrote called The 7 Principled Secrets Behind the Unforgettable Practice. You'll also receive value-packed content from our email community with instant access to your new book, guiding you from the sea of impersonal and ineffective ways to communicate with uncertainty and how to show up, to demonstrating core values of chiropractic authentically without the jargon, connecting with those who need you most. Just copy the link in the description and paste it in search, or visit chirotunes.com/free book. That's chirotunes.com/free book. Drop your email, follow the steps, and I'll get it right to you while it's still free. Now back to the show, because we've got an unforgettable business to build. Dr. Dustin Judd, I appreciate you for joining us on the show here today. And you're coming from Texas?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, my name's Dustin Judd. I practice in Corsicana, Texas, about an hour south of Dallas. Kind of in the middle of nowhere, a smaller community. I think the county's about 45,000 people or so. People drive a long way. We serve a lot of areas, several counties.
Excellent. So the premise of the show is serving entrepreneurs, business owners, and chiropractic practice owners. Question I'd like to ask you starting off is, what are you doing to create an unforgettable business within your practice?
Service, results. We train hard, staff, find the right team. That's how you do it. Memorable moments. So it's a big practice, about 6,000 square feet. We have an arcade in here. We have 2 play areas. We have a place for moms to change their babies, not in a restroom. I think we just go above and beyond. We try to serve good refreshments, water, Fiji, stuff like that. I think the team's what separates them more. Those are all things that kind of features of our practice. We do popcorn Thursdays and just things to just make children want to be here. But as far as like their experience in here is everything. So they get a good warm welcome. It feels like home. Our practice doesn't look like our practice. It's not, it's modern, it's new. We don't have the traditional slide open window where you take paperwork in. It's all open concept. Yeah, I can forward you some pictures of our practice, but we're in a small town. So people, they see each other, they see other people they know outside of our practice. And so they have an opportunity to sit down, grab a water, grab a snack, and catch up. So it's a hub, if you will. So that's how it separates apart. So we try to create that experience with them through the environment.
That's awesome. Sounds like there's a whole lot of personality, and that's really great. So you've got 17 years in practice. Can you tell me a little bit about that and your journey throughout that time?
Yeah. So I think October will be 17 years in private practice. I think I started out just like everybody. I went to a very medically oriented school. I went to TCC. Nothing that's wrong with that. It's just not really subluxation based. I didn't know what a green book was until probably 2 or 3 years in. We struggled really hard. I struggled really hard. I didn't know what I was doing as a business owner. I kind of had an associateship that I wasn't really fond of, and it forced me to just start calling around and people that are selling their practices and just asking, hey, how much are you willing to own or finance? Because I knew at that point I'd been to the banks. Nobody really wanted to give us a loan. So me and my wife found this practice and where we're at today in Corsicana. And he owned or financed it for me. And that's how I ended up starting out. But I didn't have any kind of business regimen whatsoever. Had a lot of scarcity mindsetedness. And we just struggled, man. I lived with my parents for the first couple of years. Finally, I hired a coach. I think the first coach I hired was David Singer back in the day. And things just started to level up for us. We're just your average chiropractor, adjusting kind of everything. I did have kind of a interest in children. I know my wife did. But then we found ourselves pregnant with our first baby. And that changed everything. We had a great pregnancy and all that, but a horrible delivery experience. And her name was Trinity, and she lived 8 days. And she had massive birth trauma and a stroke, perhaps in utero. And I did not have the skill set at that time to be able to put my hands on her and adjust her or do anything really with her. I was just scared to death. And I completely put all my faith in the nurses and the practitioners and the neonatologists that were there. And she passed. I felt that I should have at least given her the opportunity. I felt that in my heart, but I just was so scared to do something wrong with all these wires and everything. And that's not something you're taught necessarily in chiropractic schools, how to adjust babies in a NICU. And I guess I didn't have the skill set or the courage to even do that. But anyway, we found ourselves pregnant with our next baby girl, and my wife said, "You're going to learn how to adjust this child." And so that's when I met David Jackson and Tony Evil, and they were adjusting babies. They were doing all kinds of things that I'd never even heard about. And I did some training with them, and then I came back, and then just a whole new world opened up for us because I was kind of in a dark place after her loss. And so now our practice is probably 50% children. I take care of lots of failure to thrive babies, lots of torticollis, lots of colic and GI, and just so everything. And I have a family practice. We're in a small community, so you can't just get away with a pediatric only, but it's got a heavy pediatric influence, and it's just been life changing. So we went from this for the first 4 or 5 years of this practice to just adjusting people, doing insurance, doing Medicare, doing all that, to 100% cash based family wellness practice. And that's what we're doing today. We love it. We serve 4 days here in this office. We work like crazy. It's just me right now. I just had 122 people yesterday, and we do that in about 6 hours. And then we do that for 4 days in a row. And then we take a break and we just regather ourselves and we go do it again. And I love the practice that we have. It's no BS. I don't have any therapies. It's strictly hands-on adjusting, and it works. It gets results. And our patient they get to experience the results of us knowing what we're doing. And over that 17 years, giving hundreds of thousands of adjustments. And so that's what it takes to be good at this.
Wow, that's awesome. There's so much to unpack there.
There's so much I could tell you. And I mean, the journey's been, it's been one of tears and sweat, literally probably blood, building a practice, painting the walls of our practice to the space that we're in now. If this finds a chiropractor that's starting out, we practice in a little 1,100 square foot just a dump hole in a rundown shopping center to a freestanding 6,000 square foot building. And if you can dream it, you can do it. And I had a dream of just having a huge space where we could adjust lots of people and just have this hub like the chiropractors of the old day, where they'd be standing out, waiting room only. And sometimes our parking lot's not big enough. So it can happen. It's happened to us. And I think it's putting the adjustment first, putting the people first, getting results, being good at your art. It's an art. And I think I alluded to it earlier, but I think that's what's been lost. We've gotten so dug down in the marketing and getting new patients and the science, which a lot of times they don't care about it until they know that you can deliver results in the first place. And so this art of being able to put your hands on somebody and make something happen and get movement into a stuck, fixated spinal system and nervous system, that's been lost a lot. I think when you focus in on that, then things start to change for you and the new patients just come and your business starts to thrive.
Yeah, that's huge. So the impact of loss, we lost in utero, and I couldn't imagine being days after an experience like that. You said that when your second blessing baby was born, you decided to make that pivot into serving children. How did you possibly cope in that time between from loss to baby number 2 in running your business? Like that sort of emotional stuff, if you don't mind me asking.
Honestly, that was my scapegoat. I think I just went back. My wife took 6 months. She was depressed. She wouldn't come out of the house, didn't do a lot. And I felt a lot. I know I did. I felt guilt and shame that, hey, here I am, this healer, and I couldn't even put my hands on my own kid or save her life. But I just threw myself back into my practice. I don't think I I processed the emotions that come along with the loss. And I'm sorry to hear about your loss. It happens a lot. I have 3 daughters now. Every one of them is a rainbow baby. Like we've lost them. I lost Trinity at 8 days, a 40 full term baby. We've lost one at 12 weeks where we had to do a DNC, and then I've had a blighted oak. It's just, so we've lost them ever along the spectrum. And it's something a lot of people don't talk about. And I don't think guys talk about it because it's a mom children issue. You have aspirations for your children and you get excited. And I've been there every pregnancy test just to see. And so for me personally, I didn't handle it. I don't think. I just went straight back into work and I just threw myself into chiropractic and started working again. And that's what I knew and that's what I do best. I didn't take time to reflect on it and just got myself busy with patients. But I think as time went by, I guess time heals all things, is that you get to start reflecting back on where you were mentally and emotionally maybe. And I did eventually make sense of all this. And I think God, I don't believe in coincidences. I think God puts you through things. It's for you. It's not to you. And that happened for me because as a result, so I'll go through a little tangent. I found myself maybe 4 years later, there's a set of twins. It's actually some neighbors of ours. And where my daughter, she was at a medical city in Dallas. It's on the 7th floor. And they had it's a NICU. And then they have these rooms, they call them pods. And they have 4 incubators in each pod. And one of the twins was severely growth restricted. She's 3.5 pounds. And so I got the call to go up there and she said, "Hey, I want you to check my babies." She was great friends with my wife. And I said I'd never go back to this hospital ever again. I didn't want anything to do. I wouldn't say we were treated poorly. We just had some ugly neonatologists that just pretty much pointed out they were being selfish for using the intervention that we did for the 8 days. There's some assholes in the medical profession. There's some good people too. But anyway, I said, I'll never go back to this hospital. Long story short, I find myself in the very same place going back to adjust a 3-pound preemie that I could fit in the size in my hand. And it just so I'm going up the elevator with his dad who trusts me. And we go through the elevator doors, we scrub in, you got to scrub for 5 minutes. And then we go in and he takes the first right, which is the exact room where my daughter is. And lo and behold, it's the exact same spot in the back right corner of this room where she had laid 8 days. And I'd watch my wife rock her to her last breaths. And I have to go in there and adjust this baby girl. And thank God, I know chiropractors have been doing this for a while. Sometimes you just put your hands on it and things just move and just happen. And that's exactly what happened here. And Jocelyn was supposed to be in there for months. These people were about to get an apartment next to the hospital to stay for a long extended period. They were both those twins were out and inside of 2 weeks. They never did get supplemented with formula. Even the preemie did not. Like she started, so they were out like within 2 months in advance that they ever thought she would be. And they thought she was going to have cognitive delays, ambulatory delays, just all these things that I can tell you that did not happen because I still adjust that baby to today. She's probably, how old is she now? Probably 7, 8 years old now. But that's the power in putting purpose behind tragedy and getting over your bullshit and stepping in and just taking the courage and faith to know that God's got your back to be able to do what you train to do. Because in this life, you're going to get called to the carpet at some point. And I did my training. I'd been working with some babies and stuff, but it wasn't until I got put back in the exact same scenario that it really come full circle to me. And that was 4 years after I'd started adjusting babies. And yeah, it gives me goosebumps still thinking about it to this day. And so we're going to get tested. We all get tested. I don't think anybody gets through this life without being tested. And it just so happens that's been one of the greatest tests of my life, amongst some others. But for practice wise, definitely that one.
And I love that so much. That's so powerful. Oh, goodness. You mentioned how it's not usually a topic amongst guys and that kind of stuff about pregnancy loss. I'm a marketing geek, long time, left my day job talking about purpose last year. And in the moonlight hours, I spent a lot, last 2-3 years, my wife serves postpartum. She did placenta encapsulation, and I helped her with a lot of that marketing over the years. I know how important it is, and I have a lot of empathy for us going through that. And anyway, just to say that, bringing it back to, that's a lot of emotion, a lot of inspiration you're sharing there. I know there's a certain amount of time, a while to dig in.
Ask your questions, man, because if it helps anybody, especially if it helps some babies. This morning, I get colicky babies every week, but when you come in, they had a really stressful pregnancy, an incredibly challenging birth, NICU for 3 weeks, and then they have torticollis, they got brachycephaly, they have all these things going on, and they're just trying to get some sleep at night, but they don't know that their GI issues coming from the birth trauma they experienced through the cesarean that they had and the NICU stay. And And a lot of chiropractors don't know this. And there's this huge gap between the pediatrician that they're going to try to resolve this issue, the obstetrician that was just trying to get the baby here and the mother alive along the way. And so they didn't see the mechanism of birth. They didn't do this. And this is where we can change so many lives, is through just knowing this and educating and being able to deliver the goods to these parents. Because if you change a kid's life, you change this, and you get the whole family.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So from a marketing perspective, it seems to me like you definitely got it going on. The idea of the attractive character and choosing your ideal client, you're showing up there on social media every day. Frequently, I'm seeing you're engaging, you're answering questions, you're helping out, being a person, you know exactly who you're serving, children, and that's the ideal customer avatar or patient avatar. Do you have a show of any type, or is it your social media presence that you're using, or?
No, I just hired a new crew to do summer. We were posting like 2 or 3 posts a day, and so just pretty much ripping the roof off and just showcasing what we do every day, just to show us adjusting babies, show us adjusting children, show us doing the things that. So that's my marketing, just to show the world what we're doing. I have one company that does just all our kind of organic marketing. And then my girls help alongside that. So they're taking pictures every day. Mainly the reason I hired them is just to pull some of that load off of my girls. And then I do Facebook advertising, Instagram. That's where people's heads are buried. So we have to reach them. Where are you going to find them? And then obviously we get lots of referrals and things like that. And so it's just Google. You got to be at the top of Google these days. We do ask that they review us and stuff like that. But as far as marketing, those are probably the biggest ones right there. Obviously, we'll put on some workshops and things like that, of that nature. But yeah, they're in their phone these days. So you have to answer questions. You have to showcase what you're doing. You have to create interest, and you got to market like hell, as BJ Palmer used to say. Work hard and advertise harder, because people don't know. They got a short attention span these days. They're looking for answers. They just don't know necessarily where to look.
I didn't realize BJ said that. I know.
Yeah, and I'm forgetting the quote right now. It's work like hell, and I can't think of it right now. But one thing, you keep your sleeves rolled up. So I always keep my sleeves rolled up, because that's how the best way to keep your shirt on your back is keep your sleeves rolled up. So I roll my sleeves up every day and go. But yeah, he marketed, he advertised, and this is the developer of chiropractic. So he worked like he advertised that much harder. So that hasn't changed. Yeah, and you just have to have confidence. I think a lot of practitioners don't have the certainty, and some of that just comes with time. Some of it knows the science. I think the science is not for them as much as it is for us. We have to know what we're doing in proprioception and knowing what we're delivering and putting energy into a stuck system, and know how the spine relates to the spinal cord and the brain and that relationship. And that's where the science is for us chiropractors, so we can come in and deliver that certainty. Really, they're just looking for results.
And like you said, purpose too. That you said you lacked confidence earlier on in your practice, but then once you had that burning purpose behind, and with your connection with God and moving forward, I think that helps a lot with confidence as well.
For sure. I mean, you just see so many results. I mean, I have people come in for depression, anxiety, and we get them off their SSRIs and stuff like that. If you see enough of failure to thrive babies gain weight and live when everybody else is giving up on them, you don't have your certainty just goes to the roof. And you're not afraid of marketing, because you just know that other people need to hear your message. And it's not this forced thing, like I have to go do this, or I have to go market, it's just most of the system that they're stuck in is full of shit, and it's not serving them. And we're here to take people out of a system that the people aren't broken, the system's broken. All these pediatrician visits, all these vaccines, all these labels, all these meds they're forcing on these kids. And what do we have? We have the sickest, brokest, mentally challenged society we've ever seen. It's not working. And so we're trying to take people out of a broken system and put them in one that works, and this system works. And nobody signs up. They want peace inside their head. They don't want to spend all this money, or just all the fear and anxiety that goes around of going to these doctors and getting these labels and all these disabilities. And it's terrible. We're in a terrible situation with the young people in this world right now, especially in the United States. And so we're just trying to do our part, man. That's it. And educate and be bold, and show up with some certainty and some purpose to deliver the goods and get them out of that system that's broken.
I'm so grateful for doctors like yourself out there telling it like it is, not afraid to, having that bold nature. I'm so grateful.
One person, man. And look, I've been there. I've lost a child like you. And I can tell you lots of other things, but I've been stripped down to nothing. So I've been broke. I've been wealthy. I've been everything. There's nothing inhibiting me from just telling you what you need to hear. the truth will do.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a very beautiful thing. Speaking to your social media team, I think they're doing a wonderful job. When I reached out, they were quick. They got back to me, explained, put me in touch with the right people. I think that's pretty awesome. Whoever you got going on, I don't know if you would want to share who that is, so maybe other doctors could benefit or anything like
Yeah.
that.
I know her name. Her name's Kim, but let me figure out. I think I'll find out real quick before. I think it's social practice is what it's called.
Social practice. Okay.
She does a lot of plastic surgeons, a lot of dentists. So a lot of high they're really good. They come out and do a really good job.
And you mentioned that your team interfaces and has a lot to do with that. And that's actually something I was thinking is, as a business owner or running a team, I don't have a team yet, but I can't wait to have a team. What's your experience with team building the team, growing a team, tuning a team?
Yeah, I mean, it's called training. You train like mad. You train harder than you would in practice. You try to give them every scenario that, they're going to have on the phone. Phones are really important. Even this day, everybody's reaching out through social media and through your Facebook Messenger and stuff like that. But then they have to pick up the phone and call. If it's a lead, they got to call them. They got to interact with them. They got to know chiropractic. They have to be certain in what they do. And my girls have been with me for a while at this point. They know what we do. They know these people. They know the results that we get. So they have unbridled certainty in what we're doing here. So when they reach out to a lead, they're gonna get that lead to come in. And so as far as team, I've been through a lot of team members through the years, and I would say I'm pretty slow to fire and I was quicker to hire, and you need to flip that. There are good people out there that want to be on your mission. You just got to go through a lot of them to find them. And I have some amazing girls right now that they would fight a circular saw to be able to do what we're doing. And I'm very blessed right now to have a great team.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can vouch for Tanya. She's incredible. Been reaching out, talking to her the last
So,
week.
so they're going, when new leads come in, they're going to get right on it. They'll come over on Saturdays. They do their thing. Like they know how to take care of the communication that is happening over the phones and over the computer to get people to come in.
So work-life family balance, I'm curious how that works in a big 17-year picture. I'm sure there's ebb and flows. You say you're working 4 days a week and it's power packed, and then you have 3 days off. That's actually really cool. I like that model. How are you managing a work-life family balance?
I think as good as anybody can. People always use a balance. I think you're unbalanced. Like when I'm here, I'm not thinking about my family. I'm thinking about the people that are in front of me. I've recently changed our hours. I put a bigger break in the summer. I have like a 3-hour break in the middle of the day, and I go home with them. Sometimes I'll swim. Sometimes I'll work out. I don't have my kids. I think the biggest thing is I don't have my kids running to all these different ball games and stuff like this. And I see it from people get heated about this, but they're not in select ball. We're not running to Whataburger every night at 10 o'clock at night. I keep them close to me. I think maybe that is because of Trinity. I have 3 daughters. We swim together. We're going to go to the beach this weekend. We go to the lake a lot. Make those 3 days count as much as we can. We spend a lot of time together. They're not in every extracurricular activity known to man. We tend to do things together as a family. They might go walk with me or go jog with me. My girls work out with my wife's son. We swim together. We do things together as a family. And you only get them for such a short time. And so I want to make it impactful, and I'm not going to go chase Little League softball. That's just my thoughts. I see these parents so run down, so just wore out. And it may be different if I had little boys and I had to get into football, but I don't. I have girls, and we just have a lot of fun together, and that's what we do. So we go to the lake a lot. We're outside a lot. We go hiking a lot. We have a boat. That's what we do. And so when we're there, we try to be present. We do game nights. They're on some technology, but not a lot. So we try to interact and do things together with them as a family.
That's really cool. I like that. I feel like there's so many takeaways for myself. I got 4 kiddos, 3 girls myself, and a boy. He's just turned 1. And one thing I definitely need to do is up my exercise for sure. But like you said, we're one of those parents when it's soccer season, we're all over the place. And I'm thinking, man, our number 3 is starting to get soccer age too. And I really enjoy that philosophy. That's a really great idea, actually, I don't know if I'll be able to pull the plug on the programs we already got going on, but that's cool.
I don't know all the answers. I do date night every week with my wife. Thursdays are date night. So that's our time every single week. I've been doing that for 10 or 12 years now. So that's kind of a lot of time. And then, I don't have them in everything. So I get to spend a lot of time with them. And there's some people who would probably argue against that. But trying to create time, you got to make it. And so they're not in gymnastics and all these other things. But maybe that'll change later on. But for right now, I keep them close. We do things together.
That's great. There's always somebody to argue against something for sure, no matter how much it makes
It
sense. So
works. You got to figure out what works for you.
what is it that got you into starting
Yeah.
chiropractic?
Yes, early on as a child, I'd had some back pain. I guess my dad said his family were all holistic. They went to the chiropractor off and on through the years. Nothing regular, nothing like I ascribe to now. But I had back pain as a child. And I remember just my mom missing a lot of work. And I was probably in the third grade and they didn't really have answers for me. They didn't have all the testing diagnostics they have now. And so it got to the point where they're just going to do exploratory back surgery because they knew it was my back and I had high white blood count. So they thought I had an infection. And finally, my mom was like, she was not for the chiropractic thing at all. And, but my grandmother said, what do you got to lose? They're about to open your son up. And I think that's the one thing that my grandmother did that they agreed on. So she took me to the chiropractor. I got adjusted, I think once. I think it was actually in my neck, went in my low back. And that weekend I was out playing. And we'd drawn blood gases and stuff. And I went back. My mother worked at the hospital at that time. And my white blood count was lowered. It was back. And I don't ever think we had another issue with it. And then, so my dad really forced me. He's like, I want to be a dentist or this. So I want you to be a chiropractor. You don't have to get all nasty. You don't have to be in people's mouths. You don't have to, you can set your own hours. You can have a clinic. And I thought that was cool. And you get to work with your hands and you get to know, he's a mortician. So he was always about anatomy and stuff like that. I remember him going to college and learning anatomy. And I was always looking at his anatomy books and stuff like that. And so this is cool. You get to work with some living anatomy. And when I got there, I fell in love with it. The first semester, the first trimester is all cadavers and that thing. And I loved it. I always really did well with anatomy. And I think I still do. I love that kind of engineering and vectors and anatomy that we get to do with adjustments. So I think God took care of me. I didn't get stupid lucky. I don't think there's coincidences again. And I think God has put me into something that he knew I'd excel at. I've always wanted. I graduated when I was 24. Once I found out I knew what I wanted, I just went year round, summers, and just got it knocked out. And I think I always started practice at 25.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I just saw one of your posts actually before hopping on the call where you were talking about a News Nation interview that reached out to you. And then there was a follow-up with the Washington Post and, they gave you a 2-hour window and you had a great conversation, all these things. And then typical, they took that one thing and they spun it and just have a little thing, probably making you sound kooky. You mentioned about TikTok, that there was a viral post. I wish I got to see it. I didn't see that. Yeah. Could you speak to open that up if possible?
Yeah. So I had a severe birth injury child. He's on the spectrum. I don't like to label kids. So I'm not going to say where he's at, but he's a little over a year right now, non-ambulatory, non-vocal. He's got some issues going on. He's got lots of different people in his life as far as PTs, chiropractors. And I'm adjusting this little boy. His knees he's in defense, fight or flight, sympathetic, dominant, just that kind of locked in physiology that you see with some of these kids. And the PTs were using a vibe plate on him. And I was like, hey, I got a vibrocussor. We're going to try to loosen him up. I already adjusted him. And I'm sitting there just talking to this mom, and the mom's a PT. And so she knew all about what we're doing. And I got great research behind this anyway. But so I'm doing a vibrocussor, and the girls they're doing social media like they always do, just doing a clip of what I'm doing today. This thing took off. And I think it's the dumbest thing, but you never know what's going to go viral. And so I got mixed about 50-50. Oh my gosh, what is he doing? That baby chiropractor should never. So it just hit I guess it's just spot in people's hearts and minds that they didn't know chiropractic was a thing for children. And so there's probably 50% against it, 50% for it. And then I think the Washington Post latched onto it. I think the last I looked at, I even deleted my TikTok account. I don't even put on TikTok. It didn't really help my practice. Those people were from all over. I don't know, and just a bunch of shit talking. But I think it was 1.3 million views or something. I don't know where it went to. And then it got on Reddit. And then I had a bunch of chiropractors reach out to me and do a bunch of hate for the ICPA. And they're like, oh, what are you doing? You're drawing negative attention. And that's what's wrong with this profession is we're a bunch of wusses, for a lack of another word I would use. And we don't stand up for what we do and what we believe in. It's like any threat, we're not going to show us adjusting children, not going to show what we do in here. We want everything's just soft and laughed and giggles. And we only use sustained contact and instrument adjusting. And that's not how the real world works. And that's not what gets results. But anyway, the Washington Post got a hold of it. They did it and the guy was super nice, but just a kind of a rat. I did 2 interviews with this guy just explaining pediatric chiropractic. And I think he had talked to some other pediatricians that were against it. And he just took two sentences out of 2 hours worth of content and kind of spun around. So that's how complicit our media is. That's what they do. They spin the story into whatever they want. And yeah, that's what we're living in these days. I was talking to a mom yesterday. She's still taking her child to the pediatrician, and they're just patronizing her about not doing the flu vaccine. And she didn't know why, like they were just shaming and ridiculing her for this. And she wants certain ones and whatever. And I'm like, why do you have him there in the first place? Like, the kid's healthy, you get him adjusted. She's into Whole Foods and good health food stores. And that's how she feeds her children. And she's kind of like crunchy anyway. And I'm like, what are you doing this for? Every time you get upset, and she just didn't understand that, like, you're working against them. They're incentivized. They have to have so much of their patient base, which is children, fully vaccinated by the time they're 2 years old. And when you're not doing what they need you to do, you're working against them, and you're not going to be welcomed. You're going to be scrutinized for the decisions that you're making. And that's the world we live in. We just live in this world. It's all about profit. It's all about meeting some kind of scheduled government crap. And I could go on and on and sound, but what we're doing is not working. If it was working, it wouldn't be in my office anyway. And that's where we're at. There is a lot of complicity, and it's not, there's good, benevolent human beings and doctors and pediatricians out there. That's the way they were trained. That's what they believe. And you get what you believe. And they believe these vaccines are somehow producing better health in these kids. And they don't cause autism. They don't cause allergies. They don't cause eczema. They don't have any immune issues. And we see what we're paying out billions of dollars for vaccine injured kids, but supposedly they're safe. And parents just don't know. I think COVID did us a favor. One favor it did is expose that industry for what it is. So people are waking up. It's just slow. We have media that spin stories, and it's basically it's BS. It's propaganda for pharmaceutical companies to put out there. And there is no oversight in what they'll put out there, not politically, not in the health realm, none of that. And we're just being conditioned to believe certain things, and people are slowly waking up, and we're here for the ones that are willing to wake up. And I'm willing to share my stories. My kids aren't vaccinated. They've never been to the doctor other than getting some stitches. They're ridiculously healthy, and hey, the proof's in the pudding. And the ones that get out of that model, they tend to do really good. I have kids that are on allergy shots for 5-6 years every single week. You get them off that crap, you start adjusting them, you get rid of dairy, you get rid of their sugar or lower that intake, and they start to thrive. And it's doing the right things. It's putting them in, like I said, the right system. You get the right system, you get the right results. You go to the doctor, you go to the pediatrician, you get an antibiotic on that antibiotic merry-go-round, and you take a steroid every single time. You're puffing one and you're shooting one up, and you got a crappy diet. And you're not going to get what you're looking for.
1,000%. Love that. Couldn't agree more. That's really cool about kids never been to a pediatrician. And yeah, I like that. That's neat.
I really don't see the point. I think we have some great doctors in our town. One that I'm really good friends with, and she's sewing them up, some chins and stitches there, but I really don't see the need to have one. If you have an emergency, you're going to go to the emergency room. They're going to have some coughs and sniffles, but most of that stuff is viral. It's short-lived, but it's just whatever system you want. And I know I'm like extreme over here, granola crunchy, but you got to figure out where you are and what you're comfortable with. And I see a lot of parents just aren't willing to take the time, or they don't have the time because they get such crazy schedules to really look into some of these things to build your health. But as a parent, like, your kids are your everything. They're at least worth your time in doing some research and as to what you're putting into them. And most of these parents don't. They just blindly go in there and they hand over their child and say, do this thing, get them healthy. I don't want them to have a fever. I got to get back to work. They got to get back to school. And honestly, our system the work system and the school system is not designed to allow kids to go through some of these things that are really just essentially normal, that help build their immune systems, build their nervous system so they can be healthier as adults later on. We have to go through some of these things, but we want to always shorten that time span, but at the cost of them just getting frequently sick over and over again. And that's where we just kind of have to wake up as a society, is that we're not here building healthier kids, healthier human beings. We're treating sicker and sicker adults or sicker and sicker kids. We're treating symptoms. We're profiting off sick people, and that's where the money is. And as opposed to what can we do to this child to build a healthier human being than its parents?
Yeah, a whole lot of dependence instead of independence, health dependency. And yeah, absolutely. I saw you referencing the vagus nerve. I think that's actually I don't hear many people ever talking about the vagus nerve too often. I learned about it from a book called The Master Key System like 10 years ago. And I love the idea. And you were talking about how it affects acid reflux and stuff like that. That's something that I found interesting.
I think adults and kids a lot alike, they're in this state of sympathetic dominance. They got a lot of stress on them, physical stress, probably mental, emotional stress, at least the parents do, and then a lot of chemical stress. Most of these kids, a lot of them are fed formula and stuff like that. So most of the kids that they've tipped the scale to this sympathetic dominant state. We know the vagus is a very big parasympathetic influence into the nervous system, at least from upper cervical all the way down to transverse colon. And upper cervical trauma that we see with birth can definitely inhibit that nerve. And so what do you see kids, what do they go to NICU for? They go because they can't breathe. They go because they're not nursing. They can't keep their sugars in balance. And so that doesn't stop there. And a lot of this stuff goes undetected. And then you just have these sympathetic dominant children who turn into these stressful, sympathetic labeled adults. And so you're trying to influence, you're trying to get a parasympathetic response. You're trying to flood that brain with proprioception to calm it down so it's not dumping cortisol and adrenaline and norepinephrine. And that's what do you see with adults? High blood pressure, high sugars, lower. What does cortisol do to the immune system? It lowers it. What does cortisol do when it spikes in the night? You're wide awake. What's it do? It makes you gain weight. Your feel-good hormones like dopamine and serotonin, all the ones they want to regulate with SSRIs. You can't be in fight or flight and parasympathetic at the same, like you can't be balanced. You're one or the other. And so if you're dumping all these stress hormones, then your feel-good hormones, I think we timed out maybe.
Oh, okay. Maybe, yeah. Your video was going, your audio cut off around the parasympathetic and the stress hormones and gaining weight at that point. And I think I might have lost 25 seconds of you before you cut out.
Yeah, it's just their kids are going through the same things as adults. They're just showing up different as the adults come in. The adults what are they? They're stressed out, they're overweight, they've got blood sugar issues, they got blood pressure issues, they still have immune issues. Now they have depression issues. And these kids started out the same way. And so we got to and there's nobody better to take some of the stress off these nervous systems that they live their life through better than a chiropractor. And so I think it's just talking about that intimate relationship between the spine, the spinal cord, and the brain, and making sure that thing's functioning like it's supposed to. Because if the spine's not functioning, if it's not moving and doing what it's supposed to, then it's going to actually interfere with the very nervous system to protect. You're trying to get an autonomic shift back to balance. And that's what my focus is when I'm adjusting them, is find those areas that aren't functioning, that are subluxated, that are stressed, that aren't moving and propriocepting the right way, putting energy into a stuck system to light that brain back on fire, to allow that innate to do what it's supposed to do so we can bring about healing. Their brain, their innate, their God, their intelligence knows what to do. It's just being interfered with. And if we can find that interference, find that where it's inhibited and allow that to do what it knows to do, then you can expect miracles and you can change people's lives. And it doesn't matter if they're preemie or they're 85, you can see changes. And that's what we do here. And if you're a chiropractor that's struggling, maybe get some results, get the science, get your certainty, get your skill set in your hands to match that science and that certainty. And then the marketing thing will figure out itself. There's lots of different ways to market it, but you won't have to market near as much if you're just a badass at delivering results.
Doc, I love that so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the call with me here today. I appreciate the service that you offer to your community, and really it ripples out into the world. There's no doubt about that. I appreciate just the boldness that you have and speaking your truth with your messaging. And where at in Texas are you? That if there is anybody that reaches this, that they can come give you a visit, because man, I wish I were in your neck of the woods. I'd definitely be taking my babies there. So
we're in Corsicana, Corsicana. We're about an hour south of Dallas. Is the best way to describe it. About an hour east of Waco. And I will get you the name of our marketing, who does our organic. I'll get that contact information. Maybe you can put it up under your video or in your messaging somewhere, and I can get that. And then, if there's anything else that chiropractors need, I'm here to help this profession. We need some good chiropractors. We're losing this profession. I know that kind of gets pushed out a lot, but I have so many people that show up in our office that have never been adjusted, but they've been to the chiropractor, which is crazy to me. They'll have E-stim and all these things, and I'll give them their first adjustment. I'm like, wow, what was that? And I'm like, they've never actually been adjusted. That has to change, man. We have to get this back, because this is what gets results. So yeah, anything I can do to help another chiropractor either market, grab new patients, or just get some certainty and science behind them, man, that's what's going to move the needle for us. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Rich, I wish you the best. Good luck, man.
Thanks, Dr. Dustin. Thanks for listening to the show. If you loved this episode, please take a screenshot on your phone and post it to Instagram, Facebook, or whatever social media you're using. Tag us at ChiroTunes and let us know why you like it and what you want to hear in the future. Also, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you're listening from. And before we go, if you're a chiropractic practice owner, I'd love to send you that free book, The 7 Principled Secrets Behind the Unforgettable Practice. You'll receive value-packed content from our email community and instant access to your new book with strategies to help you move from empty, uncertain, and impersonal communication to filling your practice with engaged, committed patients in confidence and clarity. Just tell me where to send it. Sharing your best email, copy the link in the description and paste it in search, or visit chirotunes.com/free book. That's Chiro, TUNES.com/free book. Drop that email, follow the steps, I'll get it right to you while it's still free. Now it's time to build an unforgettable business.